Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. It's the Sunday night show and I hope you're all doing well. Sorry I was a little bit late there, but I was actually on a phone call talking about some stuff, so apologies for that, a little bit late. But look, fee agreed with Frankie de Jong. That's what we're going to start off with on the show tonight. Obviously, I did a show this afternoon talking about terms agreed, which has happened. But fee agreed. Have we agreed a fee? Have United agreed a fee with Frankie de Jong? And I don't want to disappoint, but the reality is we haven't. There's a few stories that have come out. One came out from the Telegraph saying that we've done a deal of 80 million euros, which is 69 million pounds. So 80 million euros, 69 million pounds. And then Fabrizio came out around the same time and said that they're negotiating around a fee of 65 million euros. So there's a contrast in two stories, and then I think Adam Crafton in The Athletics come out half an hour ago and said that things are moving nicely for the de Jong deal, but it's not imminent. And I think to be honest with you, we're in that phase now where people want to be first. People want to be the first to say deal done, and you will get people saying that. But as we've learned time and time again on this community, there's no such thing as deal done until the deal is done. And whether that's Fabrizio Romano, Simon Stone, David Ornstein, or somebody else credible, they will be the people who break it because they are the people that are credible. I could say the deal's done. People don't think I'm credible. That's absolutely fine. Somebody else who's not credible could do it as well. But the reality is the deal is not done. And I repeat what I said this afternoon. I'm interested to know, welcome to the Members Club, Jose. I'm interested to know what the fee is going to be. But we'll also be talking about an interesting offer from Fulham coming in for pre-season Pereira. Neymar to replace Ronaldo. We'll have a little bit of a chat about that because I don't really think we spoke about Ronaldo enough. Apparently Harry Maguire's gone on his honeymoon, so he's going to miss pre-season, but I don't think he was meant to be due back until next week anyway. And a few other bits as well. But credible bridge, as Kevin. So fee agreed. Have United agreed a fee for Frankie de Jong? I would say absolutely not at the moment. I think we're so impatient and we're so ready to get going that we want to get this deal done and we want to move on to other deals. My feeling on everything at the moment is that Manchester United feel that when they get this Frankie de Jong deal done, it's going to buy them some time and it's going to make them look really, really good. And the reality is, I want to get into this tonight. I want to take some of your questions because it is a Sunday night show as well. I'm sort of locked on to something about at the moment. I don't know whether you feel like this, but I'm locked on to the fact that I look at that midfield, even with Frankie de Jong, and I saw an article today, who's going to play for Frankie de Jong? There's 5 options. And I thought, well, there's not actually 5 options on who's going to play with Frankie de Jong, is there really? There actually isn't 5 options because none of those options are actually going to be good enough to play with Frankie de Jong. So, Fred, Mctominy, Garner, de Jong, Van der Beek, they're not going to be good enough. They're not going to be good enough, and I think we really need him to bring someone in. If Erickson won't sign, I'm going to talk about Erickson in a minute, Manish. Who would be the next best replacement? Welcome to the Members Club, Ahmad. And hi, Mark. Nice to catch you live. Normally save up the vids for when at work. Been subbed since 150k. Thanks, George B. I hope you're doing very, very well. Hi, Mark. I think de Jong is going to be done next week, but then this window has been really worrying when you consider what clubs around us are doing, says Farmy. Yeah, look, I think where we're at is that I know we don't want to be patient, but we have to be patient. I had a few people messaging me today about, we haven't agreed terms with Frankie because such and such says we haven't. I mean, look, I know we have. If someone else is saying we haven't, then that's because maybe they want to break that we have. Maybe they want to do it in their own way in a couple of days. Maybe they're going to... Look, people have stories and they want to be the one breaking that story. The reality is, Manchester United, Frankie de Jong will be our third best highest paid player. I don't think it will be as much as De Gea. It won't be as much as Ronaldo, but he will definitely be our third best player. How do I know this? Because I know Man United have put the offer on the table for the wages already. He's not signed those terms because he can't sign them until he's signed for Manchester United. But do you really think we've spent the last 2 months, and I'll put it like this in simple terms, do you really think, it's like a bit like an arranged marriage, do you really think that we've spent 2 months speaking to Barcelona and trying to sort a deal with Barcelona, and then when they say yes, we're going to go and meet Frankie for the first time and say, do you want to come to United? He has been spoken to, and he has been spoken to about wages and signing on fees and everything like that. But I would state that, people just want to announce things in different ways, but we have sorted those things out. What I don't think we've sorted out is the fee, though. I'm really intrigued to see what this fee is going to be. I still go with what I was told last Wednesday, which is it'll be 75 million euros plus 10 in add-ons. 75 million euros being 64 million pounds. But maybe we'll just pay an outright 80 million, which is 69 million quid. I certainly would repeat what I said this afternoon. If we're paying 80 million euros for Frenkie de Jong plus add-ons, then we've really not done a great job of negotiating over the last 2 months if we're going to pay 69 million pounds and 350 grand a week. That's a lot of money, isn't it? But I absolutely think this deal is going to happen. I think most people do now. I just don't think it's going to happen at 10 o'clock tonight or tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. I think, for some reason, I think Thursday, and I think that's because Thursday is the 30th of June. But look, I am excited about it, but it's what we do after that. Hello, Mark. De Jong happening this week. We'll need another midfielder to play alongside him, says Vignesh. Hi, Mark. Can you wish Jordan Fish, the greatest keyboard player in the world, a very happy birthday? Keep up the good work from Hayden, Lucy and Arthur. I know who Jordan is. Happy birthday to Jordan. Thank you very much for that, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat will be saying that as well. Thanks, Hayden. And Mark, I think we should go for Ramos, as he could be great for rational playing, and Ronaldo to train with him, says Elliot. Okay. And becoming more and more frustrating when De Jong finally gets over the line, by more of a relief that it's finally over than the excitement of the player at this rate, says Jordan. Yeah, and I think this is where Manchester United do need to be a little bit careful, because I think they think they're going to drop this De Jong signing and United fans are just going to start screaming like, you know, a crowd in a One Direction concert, like, oh my god, and there are fans doing that. I've seen people on social media today, and it's like 2 days ago they're going on about the Glazers out, and this afternoon, because they think the deal's going to get announced, they're like, oh, what a great player, oh, well done Murta, and all this, and I'm like, God, some of our fans and football fans in general are ridiculously flippant with their emotions. Where do I sit on that? I was very angry on Friday about what the Glazers done. I'm very angry with the start to this transfer window. And let's not forget, we've still parachuted in a lawyer to help us work on transfers. We are not, by any stretch of the imagination, having a good transfer window. And I absolutely know for a fact that this is not the plan. United will tell you the plan is that we will get the deals done, we have got the money to spend, and we'll get where we want to get. But look at Timber. That case, that transfer should be done by now, and Ten Hag would have expected that to be done. We were speaking to Timber's agents at the end of May, and it's fell away. And now we might not get a centre back, and we haven't sold any of the other centre backs as well. So that's just one example of why this transfer window is not going to be the commercial spin that Manchester United maybe want to pretend it is. This is not going to plan. Man United, back in the middle of May, never intended to be sat here at the end of June with no sales and no signings. I don't think they intended to send Dean Henderson on loan to Nottingham Forest and pay half his wages. I think they wanted to sell him to Newcastle and get 25 million quid. I think they thought an Eric Bailly or a Wan-Bissaka or a Phil Jones would be gone by now, and they haven't. I think they thought they would have one or two players in by now, and they haven't. So we are not having the transfer we want to have, and therefore, knowing this as a fact, in relation to Frenkie de Jong, when the deal gets over the line this week, the last thing I want is the next 2 weeks to be about Frenkie de Jong. And what I mean by that is, he won't be holding a shirt up this week, very unlikely, because he's on holiday. It'll be the week after, which means if we get the deal done this week, it'll all be about deal done, and then next week it'll all be about official deal done. And then you waste 2 weeks of the transfer window doing a deal that we've known is going to happen, really, for 2 months. And I'm like, who's next? And who's next after that? And who's next after that? And what are you doing about this defensive-minded midfield? And that's what I'm thinking about, because a transfer window is never about one individual transfer. It's about everything that surrounds it. And it's about sales, and it's about filling holes in the team. And we saw it last summer. I don't like going on about it all the time, but we saw it last summer. We bought Sancho, we bought Varane, we bought Ronaldo. 3 very good players, but we didn't fill the biggest hole in the sinking ship, and we sunk. And, you know, basically that's what happened. Ollie was sat there with Karaki, and he was going, we're sinking, Karaki, we're sinking. We've got holes everywhere. And I've got Ronaldo, and I've got Sancho, and I've got Varane, but there's still a big hole in the midfield, and I've spent all the money, Karaki, and I think we're going to sink. And we did. And that hole is still there. If you want it as an analogy, we are that ship, that sinking ship, circled by sharks, and that big midfield hole is still there. And Frankie de Jong does not fill that hole for me. Frankie de Jong replaces Pogba, and I think he'll do a better job. I'm not saying he's a better player, but I think he'll do a better job. But we still got that massive hole in the midfield, and we need to solve that one. Signing de Jong is like adding a pinch of saffron to your baked beans. We need so much more. A new dish completely, says Nick P. And Ashwari, thank you very much for that. So, if you're tuning in a little bit late, there has been some talk today that Manchester United have agreed a fee for de Jong. Fabrizio Romano said that we're negotiating on 65 million euros. The Telegraph came out and said that the deal will be done for 80 million euros, which is 69 million pounds. I don't think that's correct. But I am really interested to see what the fee is, because there's all sorts of things. I still think that what I got told will be right. I think it will be 75 million plus add-ons or something around that. But we will see. What I will tell you is the deal's not done in relation to the fee, because that would not... United cannot keep that sort of thing quiet. So it's not officially been agreed yet. And I think it will be this week. And I think, unfortunately, what's happened is that people have had the weekend off like they normally do. So we will see what happens. I expect it to happen this week, but we haven't agreed the fee yet. I think some people are just jumping a little bit too soon. But the terms and wages with Frankie de Jong, they have been sorted verbally. Obviously, they've not signed those terms yet because we haven't signed the player. But we've verbally been having conversations with Frankie de Jong. And there has been a step forward, as I said, this afternoon. And I think there's an acceptance on Frankie's part now that he is coming to Manchester United, whether he deep down wants to or not. I think he is accepting it. What gaming monitor are you using for playing FIFA 22? Says Harvard. AOC? I think it's an AOC. Anyway, Erickson. Let me talk to you about Erickson very, very quickly, and then we'll talk to you about Pereira, and then we'll talk about Ronaldo, and then we'll take some of your questions. So Christian Erickson is up and down story. I think TalkSport this morning was saying that he was going to turn us down. This afternoon, there's a little bit more confidence that he'll come to us. I was told last week that, you know, if you're going to go percentage, Erickson, go high. It's still very much Brentford against United for Erickson. So there is a tinge of embarrassment when I have this conversation and say there's still a chance we'll get him and he won't turn us down. His other option is Brentford. And I don't know why he would be thinking about turning us down. I think logically... staying in London, potentially. Second, maybe there's a loyalty to Brentford because they gave him a chance. I don't believe that, though, because he was training with Ten Hag. So maybe he feels some loyalty there. I personally think he probably is... Look, I think he probably is still going to come to us. But why has he had to think about it so much? I think he's had to think about it so much because whatever Ten Hag tells him, you can figure things out for yourself. I don't see if Ten Hag says I'm going to play you, I don't see where he's playing him. I don't see where he's playing him. Whereas at Brentford, he knows he's going to play every week. And you can be told you're going to play every week, but imagine he plays the first game of the season, he doesn't play particularly well. I'll put you back on the bench because the system doesn't work. And then you're on the bench. You can never guarantee to any player that they're going to play every game. Because... all right, you can with a Cristiano Ronaldo and you can with certain players, but I just don't think you can do that. And I don't think players believe that when they're going round in the summer, taking in their options. If a manager says, I want you as part of my team, I'm going to use you every week. I imagine Erickson's got a big doubt in his head because he's going, well, everyone's going to tell me that because I'm free. I'm a free transfer, so I'm very valuable to these clubs if they get me. And he knows he's going to play every week at Brentford. Does he really 100% know he's going to start every game for Manchester United? Because I certainly can't see it. I'm not saying Ten Hag's a liar, but I can't necessarily see how he starts every game in a team that's got Sancho, Bruno, Erickson, De Jong. I mean, look, there's not a lot of defensive capability in them four behind Ronaldo. So I don't know how that works. Stupid deal. For the amount involved, it would have been cheaper in the long run to go for Rice as Darren Wilton. Would Frankie de Jong plus playing a higher line somewhat negate the need for a six? Would probably require a quicker centre-back, though, as not to be caught in behind, says Rory. Hey, Mark, don't you think United is paying half of Hendo's wages? Don't think United is paying half of Hendo's wages. I think they are, Jag. That was the last I heard, but I think they are. Because he's on 140 grand a week. I don't think Nottingham Forest would pay 140 grand a week for a goalkeeper, do you? So we will be paying something. I'd be pretty sure of that. I do think we need a defensive-minded midfielder, by the way. And the reason, I've said this before, and I'm sure people will agree, some might disagree. The reason we need a defensive-minded midfielder is I think it will complement Frankie de Jong really well in this league. He's never played in the Premier League before, and I've never heard anybody analyse it like this. I've heard people start talking about Frankie de Jong as a defensive midfielder. He's not a defensive midfielder. But even if you wanted to play in there, he's not particularly tackler, physical. That's not what he is. He's a cultured footballer. So I think Frankie de Jong, and I'm amazed nobody's analysed it like this. I think we all say we need a defensive midfielder because we've needed one for 3 years. But I think we also need one, not only because we need one and we've needed one for 3 years and we don't really have one. I think you also need one to stick next to Frankie de Jong in his first season in the Premier League. Like, who's going to protect Frankie de Jong? That's what I'm looking at in that team. It's his first season. He's a massive signing, and nobody's actually said this yet. Who's there to protect him physically? Who's there to be his runner? Who's there to be his shield? There isn't anybody in that team anywhere near Frankie de Jong. And what I mean by that is, you think about people like Roy Keane, you think about people like Fabinho, not Roy Keane now obviously, but Roy Keane of the past, Fabinho, the Paul Inces of these world, Kantes, people like that. We do need someone next to Frankie, so that, what I'm saying is, I remember Michael Carrick in the latter years, everyone knew he just didn't have the legs as much as he used to, so he'd just stay there, taking the ball off the back four, dictating the game. And if you let him do that, Carrick could do that really, really well into his 30s. But some teams would stick a player on him. And when they stuck a player on him, you nullified Carrick. And they sort of nullified us. That's what worries me about Frankie de Jong. It's like, well, if everyone knows he's the big player, this happened to Pogba a lot. They'll just nullify him. We need somebody in that midfield to protect him. And I don't see who's going to do that. I don't see Garner being able to do that. Out of everybody, I'd like Garner to be able to do it. Donny, can he do that? McTominay and Fred, I don't think so. So I really want us to go and get that sort of defensive-minded midfielder. I think it's really, really important. But going back to Erickson, I do think we'll get Erickson. Frankie de Jong for captaincy, says MVP. Ronaldo has to be the Kante. Our midfield, Marvin AM says de Jong is press resistant. I didn't say he wasn't press resistant. I said he's not a physical player. Our midfield is looking like Donny, Frankie, Bruno with 3-5-3 set up, possibly Martial, Rashford, Ronaldo rotating up front, says Ibrahim. I really would hope that we don't play with 3 centre backs, because I think that's just accommodating Maguire. Maguire loves playing in a back 3 or a 5 or whatever, and I think we've got to play with a 4. I think we've got to play with a back 4. That's what City do. That's what Liverpool do. And I think that's what we should do. Hi Mark, do you have any news on Dylan Levitt or what club he's going to? I saw something today, Dan, that he might be going to Dundee United on loan again. Which actually, let me just talk to you about Pereira. Eric Ten Hag should be adamant to bring in Sangari rather than a winger. If Sangari comes in, the board can sell Scotty. My gut feeling says that Ahmad and Facenda Palistri would be more impressive on the pitch compared to Rashford during pre-season, says Pratic. Would a Ruben Neves work in the CDM position with a De Jong, says Uriam. He could do. I don't think we will move for him though. It's a waste of time if we get Frankie de Jong and playing alongside McFred. We need someone like Declan Rice, says Desiree. I mean, that would be very exciting. Declan Rice and Frankie de Jong in a midfield too. That would be a dream situation. So we've had a bit of a interesting story come out this afternoon, early evening in the UK, that Andreas Pereira has received an offer from Fulham for around 10 million. Fantastic. I'd love this to happen. I don't get overly excited about this sort of stuff because we never seem to be able to get these deals done, but this would be good. I mean, it absolutely has to happen. Andreas Pereira is not a player that even resonates to me. I don't even think about putting Andreas Pereira in our squad. So we've got to move Andreas Pereira on. I mean, he needs to move on for his own career, but we need to move him on. And if we can get 7-8 million quid for him, I think that's a good bit of business, isn't it? It's certainly some money coming in and it's a player out. So I'm really hoping that something will happen in relation to Andreas Pereira. We aren't going to get a CDM. It will be McTominay sitting, De Jong and Donny and Bruno at the top of the diamond. I think it could work quite well. McTominay sitting, says Sean Turner. Well, you've ruined it there. You know what? Sean, fantastic member of the community. You know this, but I'm going to call this out because I'm going to call a lot of things out. Scott McTominay is not a centre defensive midfielder. He was shit last season. Absolute shit in that position. Every time I've seen Scott McTominay play well is when he's actually allowed to be box to box and get forward. When he has to pick up the runners, when he has to defend the back four, he's bloody awful. Awful. Statistically, but also with the eyes. Like, he's awful. He hides. I picked up on this right at the start of the season. And by the end of the season, people were calling it out. When the centre-backs have got the ball, he runs behind the striker so he doesn't get the ball. He averages 40 passes per game, which is terrible. Like, he's not a CDM. Now, maybe Eric Ten Hag is going to work a bloody miracle. And maybe he will. I'd be stunned, but if he's going to work a miracle with McTominay, I don't think it can be as a CDM. I really don't think it's his best position. But, having said that, you know what? If we're going to play with a midfield two, he might work better, because I think we need to get out of this mindset that we're going to play with a midfield two. That's not where I want to be. Yeah, look at this here. So I've got Fred and McTominay. I've got Fred and De Jong here. Well, that is not having a... And if we used Fred as the example, McTominay in this position is a bloody nightmare. He trots from side to side, bunny hops and goes back. I don't want him there. But maybe McTominay next to De Jong, where they sort of share the load and they've both got the opportunity to go forward. Maybe that would work. But we can't have McTominay here. That can't work. I think it's got to be a position change if you're going to do that. We don't need De Jong to be physical. You look at City, for example, their midfielders don't win headers. They control the pace and don't give it away. Nate, have you actually watched Man City play? Have you heard somebody called Rodri? Like, he literally sits in front of their back four, dictates the play, well over 6 foot. Yeah, you might want to watch Man City. Their midfield does not consist of Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva, and Phil Foden. We should get James Rodriguez. He works good together with Ronaldo. No, I think those days are gone, D&D. And do you think Sangare and Anthony could be next, says Danny? I would love us to sign Sangare, but I've always said about Sangare that essentially Eric Ten Hag knows Sangare better than you and me. He's been managing in the Eredivisie. PSV were his direct rival. He will know Sangare like the back of his hand. If he wants him at Man United, I'd be very excited. If he doesn't want to go for him at Manchester United, he probably doesn't think he's good enough. I honestly don't think we will get a CDM this summer. I don't either. Vacation. I don't want to say it on June the 26th. Again, for the third summer in a row, it's the most priority position for me, and I don't think De Jong ticks the box of what that position is. We need 2 midfielders, and I want a defensive-minded midfielder. And I think unless Ten Hag's got a plan up his sleeve, he'll realise he needs a defensive-minded midfielder too late if he doesn't buy one. Mark, with 5 subs in the new season, Ten Hag can promise Maguire time on the field and bench him for the season. Same with McFred, says Amir. Also, just want to bring this in as well. Ryan says, is it confirmed? No. That's why there's a question mark there. A story came in from RMC today saying that Manchester United could move for Neymar if Cristiano Ronaldo leaves. Frankie de Jong is a Busquets type player. I want one, but do we need a specific DM? He's not over physical, but great positionally and smart with the ball. See, Nick, I disagree. I mean, I've done the video on this, and I completely disagree with this. I don't think many of you have actually watched Frankie de Jong play, because he's not a Busquets type of player. I think he can do that role, and I think Busquets can do the De Jong role. But Busquets tends to just sit there in front of the back four and run the game, a little bit like Michael Carrick used to. Frankie de Jong can do that, but Frankie de Jong, when you look at his career over the last 4 years, whether it's with Ajax or Barcelona or the Dutch, there's 3 big things to Frankie de Jong's game in the triangle for me. There's the defensive side, there's the carrying of the ball, and there's the creative side. And for me, his 2 biggest assets are carrying the ball, i.e. carrying the ball in relation to getting the ball and moving forward with it, or dribbling with it. There's creative, whether it's the first pass, the assist, the second assist, or whatever. And then there's the defensive side, which is the pressing, etc. He's very good at the defensive side and the pressing, but if you stick him in front of the back four and ask him to do the Busquets or the Carrick role, he's not going to be allowed to dribble forward and carry the ball. He's not going to be allowed to go further enough forward to be part of the creativity. he's got to be. And look, although that is what I think, Ten Hag said it himself in 2019. If you put him in that position, you lose two of the things that he's good at, or some words to that effect. So I think anybody who thinks that we're just going to drop Frankie de Jong into the team and play him where Mctominy played last season, sort of dropping in like Matic does, we'll be wasting a lot of money. I wouldn't spend £70 million on Frankie de Jong if we're going to play him in a position where we don't get the best out of him. I definitely agree he can do it, and he can do it better than anybody we've got, but we'd lose so much of what he's about as well. I think what you've got to do with de Jong is you've got to play him in a midfield too, and you almost want the other midfielder to do the same thing. So de Jong's obviously going to have responsibility to get back, but he can go forward as well. I'd want the left-hand side, the left midfielder in the two to do that as well, ideally with a little bit more defensive-minded as well. If Fred could tackle and pick up runners, I do think a better Fred next to de Jong would work quite well. But it's the defensive side of Fred's game that worries me, because he's terrible positionally and he doesn't pick up the runners. Eric Ten Hag will prioritise right wing or CDM over another midfielder. Strongly feel it's going to be Fred, Donny plus Frankie de Jong. Erickson will probably be preferred over Bruno, says Akshay. Eric Ten Hag should be adamant to bring in Sangare rather than a winger. If Sangare comes in, Board can sell Scotty. My gut feeling says that I've read that one from Pratik. Sorry. Repeat, it's like UK Gold. Let me talk to you about this story from RMC, which is a French outlet. They're saying that Manchester United will move for Neymar if Cristiano Ronaldo leaves. Now, what do we know about the situation with Cristiano Ronaldo? What we know with the situation with Cristiano Ronaldo is that it's no longer paper talk and it's no longer speculation. Ronaldo is not happy at Manchester United. He's not happy because of the reason you're not happy. Cristiano Ronaldo, and we said this when we bought him last summer, he's basically you in the dressing room. For different reasons, but he is you. You love this club, you want this club to win, and you're fed up with it being shit. Ronaldo loves this club, he wants to win, and he's fed up with it being shit. But also, he's one of the world's greatest ever players. He wants to win, he's running out of time. So when he's on holiday looking at this United summer and going, right, I've got to go back, and he's just had that season, he doesn't want to come back and have that season again. He wants to see some ambition, and he's basically telling the club he wants to see some ambition. So the club have got to start showing some ambition. Now, I don't think Ronaldo's going to go. The club don't want him to go, and they're having to now show that ambition to stop him from going. But if Manchester United were to let Ronaldo go and bring Neymar in, I mean, I don't know where this story's coming from. Well, it's coming from RMC in France, but that would be ridiculous. I mean, we've got to keep Ronaldo because Ronaldo understands what winning's all about as a Manchester United player. Neymar would just be dropping in another stranger who is one of the world's best players but has no connection with Manchester United. I think it would be very, very dangerous. Sell McFred, buy Erickson and de Jong, and bring in Donny and Garner as backup. We urgently need a centre-back and a right-back, says Quinstar. Tommy, thank you very much for the super chat there. I do agree with you, but I mean he can play that role. So do you think that's the plan with him? Nick, I don't think it is the plan with him, Nick, because Eric Ten Hag knows Frankie de Jong better than all of us. And he will know that you've got to get Frankie de Jong on the ball and allow him to run into space, to dribble, to create. He can't do that if he's playing as a CDM. De Jong is an 8. I've never seen him play as a holding player. I just hope after Thursday when Barca have to sell him, we act quickly on other targets, says Sean. And Ndembele, he's decent, could be cheap. No, Eden, no. I wouldn't go anywhere near Ndembele. But look, one thing I was talking to somebody about tonight, and I would shout them out for it, but I don't know whether they'd want to be shouted out for it. So if they're watching, I'm not shouting you out for it because I don't know whether you want to be shouted out for it. But we were having a conversation about Ronaldo, and they made a great point, a really good point. So I thought I'd share it with you on the show. They basically said last summer, can you remember last summer, when, for anybody who doesn't think Ronaldo's not happy, for anybody who doesn't think that Ronaldo's pissed off, go back to last summer. Ronaldo is a Juventus player. Ronaldo gets linked to Juventus Real Madrid around this time. Remember, Ronaldo got linked to Real Madrid way before us. Ronaldo put a statement out, I don't know whether it was on Instagram or whatever, basically saying how disrespectful it was to Juventus that he was being linked with a move away. You know what I'm going to say? Where's Ronaldo's statement in the last few days about Man United being disrespected? It's total contrast. And I think you can read a lot into that because the reality is I think Ronaldo is like a lot of you. I think he genuinely is pissed off at Manchester United at the moment. Not the club, he loves the club. Not the fans, he loves the fans. But the way the club is being run, I think Ronaldo is just fed up to the back teeth of the way the club's been run. We've heard all sorts about the facilities, about players, about the dressing room. I think Ronaldo's generally quite pissed off with the way the club's being run. And I think he's quite pissed off with the way the summer's going at the moment. So I think, therefore, he's not bothered to put statements out about disrespecting Man United and linking his name to other clubs. Maybe he will do it now, but he hadn't done it. Ronaldo will stay if some quality comes in, says Leo. Yeah, and I think we have to get that quality in. The Netherlands versus Belgium. Frankie de Jong played with Berghuis and Klaassen, who are both more attacking players. He did. I was going to say that, Remco, when we heard that. I think the last set of internationals, Frankie played a little bit deeper, but that's not his best position. I know he likes that position. It'd be a piece of piss. He could do it with a cigar on, taking the ball off the back four and passing it. But I don't think that's Frankie de Jong's best position. I think, and the question would be, if you did play Frankie de Jong as the more deeper player, who are you playing as the box-to-box? Are we going to go Frankie de Jong, Erickson and Bruno? Do you think that's going to work at the Etihad or at the Anfield? I'm sorry, I know the Premier League better than a lot of people. Not you, but what I mean is, I'm very confident that I know the Premier League, and I'm very confident that you can't play De Jong, Erickson and Bruno in a Premier League season and not get beat a few times. You've got to have a bit of defensive capability. I saw a stat, actually, that Højbjerg and Bissouma were two of the top 5 tacklers in the Premier League last year. Well, Spurs have got them both now. Mark, we'll take the Neymar of Barcelona because I think PSG is set up to fail always, says Sankadeep. And Erik Ten Hag said that players dictate the way you play, so I'm not sure we should expect United to play how Ajax played last season. No, Jonathan. And also, let me just bring this in as well. The Telegraph article today that spoke about a deal being close to being agreed for 80 million euros, 69 million pounds. In that same article, they spoke about today being United's first training session, and there was 15 senior players training. So I thought it was tomorrow, but apparently United had their first training session with Erik Ten Hag today. And I think the first couple of days are going to be about fitness levels and things like that. So yeah, the players are back, which means that Donny will be back, Rashford, and all the non-internationals, Sancho, De Gea. There'll be quite a few of them. Wan-Bissaka, because apparently they were back today. So yeah, we will obviously start to get some photos through soon. But this is what I mean. In a way, it's good, but as soon as the players are back in training, it's funny. I was talking to Incy actually the other day, and they were back in training last week, Reading, and it just got me thinking. You know, obviously, if you've not had your summer holiday yet, summer's not even started. But when the football teams are going back for pre-season, in a footballing sense, that's it. They're back ready. They're back getting ready for work now. The summer's over, isn't it? And players are back in training. We've not made any signings or sales yet. Man City have Rodri, Liverpool have Fabinho, Chelsea have Kante. Ten Hag should learn from his rivals and get a CDM. Remember, Pep lost the Champions League to Chelsea because he didn't play a CDM, says Joel. Look, I'm intrigued to see what he's going to do. I firmly believe you've got to have somebody who can just put their foot in a little bit. You know, whether it's a Højbjerg or a Bissouma or a Fabinho, I think you've got to have a player like that. We don't have a natural player who can do that. That's not... De Jong's not a player who puts his foot in. You know, you don't... De Jong's not a Fabinho. He's not a Højbjerg, is he? And I think we need a player like that, and we don't have a player like that. Maybe we don't start them every game, but I still think you need a player like that. I would love to have... I wouldn't mind us going for Bissouma, but I'd love to have a Højbjerg. I don't know whether I'd start him every game, but I'd love to have a player like that you know you can drop him in that midfield and he's just going to break the play up, play the simple pass and hunt the ball down and win it. And we haven't got a player like that. Fred's very good at pressing and that, but he's not a breaker up of the play in the sense that he'll probably win it back and kick it out for a throw-in or something like that. Mctominy, I think he's too slow into the tackle. That's why he gets booked a lot. Donny is a big question mark. Look, maybe Donny could turn it. I said a lot last year that I think Donny can play in a 2. Maybe Donny plays in a 2 next to Frankie, but it's the big unknown with Donny. I don't know whether he has got that Højbjerg tendency to just break up the play and do it. I don't know whether he can do that. Garner, again, bit of the unknown. I think Garner's a little bit more like Frankie de Jong in the sense that you need to allow him to go forward as well. Look, nothing would please me more than to see Donny and Garner playing a lot of football for United next season, but I still think we need a player that can get their foot in and break up the play. Do you think Bruno could improve on his defence to help out more, or he just cares about attacking, says the chosen one? I don't think Bruno's particularly good at tackling. I think he'll always put his foot in, but I don't think he's particularly good at it. I don't think that's what his strength is. I think you need specialists, don't you? We can't keep putting square pegs in round holes. Like, we just need a specialist defensive midfielder. It doesn't mean we play with a holding midfielder, but Declan Rice is a specialist CDM. I think he'd play brilliant in an Ajax system where you've got two midfielders dictating the press, playing higher up. So, yeah. But if we're going to play with a midfield two, we do need a quick centre-back, and we haven't got one at the moment, apart from Varane. Why no one talking about right-back? Wan-Bissaka is not an Eric Ten Hag type of player, for sure. Delo is not good enough, says Divic. You know what? I think it's going to be really interesting. Now the players are back in training. I know somebody mentioned this a moment ago. I look at that Man United squad at the moment. Do I think with 3 weeks of training they can go and play Liverpool in Australia and play like Ajax? No. And I don't care what the score is in any of the pre-season games. I'm not looking for the scoreline. We're all old enough and experienced enough to know that on pre-season tours, it really doesn't matter what the scoreline is. But this pre-season tour for Manchester United is the most attentive I'm going to be since Van Gaal. With Mourinho, I knew how Mourinho was going to play. And his first, when Mourinho took over and went on pre-season tour, I wasn't massively interested. I was excited, but I wasn't, you know how Mourinho plays. But the last time I was this excited about a pre-season tour was Van Gaal, because Van Gaal came with a great reputation for playing good football. Well, Eric Ten Hag, the genius of Eric Ten Hag is his style of football. So when we're playing these pre-season games against Palace and Liverpool and Melbourne and whoever else we're playing, it doesn't matter who the personnel is. It doesn't matter what team he picks for the first half and the second half. It's the shape of the team. It's the pressing of the team. It's how high the line is. It's how much possession we have. It's how we move the ball about. It should be in total contrast to anything we've seen for the last 3, 4, 5 years. That's what I'm looking forward to see. But as somebody said there, is it possible to get this set of players to play anything remotely like the way Man City play, or Ajax play, or Liverpool play? And I think the big thing would be no. You can't. But I actually think we will see an improvement, and people will be so impressed with it because it's so different to what we've seen. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Eric Ten Hag sets his teams up in the pre-season heading towards the new season, because can you get these players to play the brand of football that you want? Probably not. And this is why we go back to signings again, because I think if you drop De Jong into that team, you put Anthony into that team, you put a Timber or a Martinez in that team, then suddenly it's a very different team that can play in a very different way, even with 2 or 3 players added into it. You think Bruno? I've done that about Bruno. Also, we've had Matthew saying, if you were Ten Hag, who would you get for CDM? It's a really good question, and look, I quite like the idea of Sangari. I quite like the idea of Lema. Lema and De Jong would be a really interesting midfield too. I wouldn't say either of them. The structure, says Jules, I don't think either of them have got defensive discipline like a Fabinho. But I think as a midfield two, they could share that responsibility and do quite well. You'd need a good centre-back to play next to Varane, and a mobile one as well, so they could play high. I'm intrigued by Sangari, but I can't say go and buy him, because I think Ten Hag knows him better than anybody, and it's whether he wants to go and get him. I would like Kante if he didn't have an injury problem. I think he's a good shout, Kingdom Kid. Look, I'd love Declan Rice. I'd love Declan Rice at Manchester United with Frenkie de Jong, but that's 180 million quid on 2 players, and we just can't afford to do that. I think Declan Rice and Frenkie de Jong as a midfield two, I think we'd comfortably finish top 4 next year. But we can't do it. We can't do it. Aaron Wan-Bissaka as centre-back. Shane, you're a troublemaker. That is what you are. That is what you are. Opinions on Alanga. I spoke about Alanga this morning. Impossible. The club was finished as soon as they allowed Sir Alex to stay as a board member, says Primeval. And Diddy would be the perfect CDM for me. Look, a fit and Diddy would be perfect, Michael, yes. Kimmich would be fantastic as well. But, yeah, I mean, we're not going to get those sort of players. We're not going to get those sort of players, are we? Neves is not that much defensive. No, I think Ruben Neves, again, would be a bit like Lema. You could play him in a midfield too with with Frankie. There's not that specialism defensively, but I think they could do the job. You don't... Look, if you're playing with a midfield two... Let me just go back here. If you're playing with a midfield two, so you've got your two centre-backs there, as you can see. If you play with that midfield two there, so it doesn't have to be Fred. It could be Lema, it could be Neves, it could be whoever you bloody want it to be. But if you play with a midfield two like that, and that's how you want to set up, you want a high line with two centre-backs that can cover the flanks, your full-backs push on, your midfield two, they're dictating the press. If you play like that, you can play with Frankie and Donny. You can play with a Frankie and a Neves or a Frankie and a Lema, because actually their work is to push the press on, dictate the press, win the ball, move the ball, carry the ball, dribble the ball, find a pass. You're not asking them to just sit there and be defensive. And I think as long as you've got intelligent players that know what their role is, and most importantly, fit, energetic players who know what their role is, I do think you can play a midfield too that doesn't have a traditional CDM. But I would like to have the option of having somebody who can do that. I mean, a prime Kante would be brilliant to play next to Frankie de Jong in that system, but I don't think we're going to get that. Mark, Simon Peach came out yesterday and said that United need to sell a centre-back to buy one because they have too many on the books. Thoughts? I agree. I don't agree with that, but I do agree with that, if you know what I mean. I don't think we should have to sell to buy. I don't think it's fair on a new manager to have to sell to buy. He didn't buy the shit you're trying to sell. So the manager, when he has his interview and says, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to buy, and the club say, yeah, we want that to happen, you should deliver those players for him. I think it's completely wrong, and I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I think it's completely wrong that a new manager, who's not kicked a ball as a manager yet, and not managed a game, he shouldn't be in a position where he's got to come in and sell to buy. The whole point of the first summer for a new manager is that you give them the players they want. And yes, in time they'll remove the shit, but they shouldn't have to sell to buy in their first summer. If he wants a centre-back, he should be given a centre-back. It shouldn't be, we'll only get you a centre-back if we can sell Bailly or Jones or both or something like that. Because if I'm Eric Ten Hag, I'm going, hold on a minute. You're giving me this job to turn this club around, and then you're telling me I've got to sell to buy, and I've got to sell crap players that I didn't even buy in the first place to buy the players I'm telling you are going to make us better. Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't make sense that Eric Ten Hag says, I want Timber, and then the club go, but we need to sell someone first. I'd be like, what are you on about? You've chosen me for the job. I've told you what I'm going to do. You've chosen me on what I've told you you're going to do. I've told you to go and get Timber. You've messed that up because you haven't sold Eric Bailly or Phil Jones. So now I've got to use Eric Bailly and Phil Jones. You know that interview where I said that was my plan to do, get United back where they need to be over the next 3 years? Add another fucking year on now, because you've still left me with these shit players. Do you think Ten Hag will evaluate the players in pre-season training and make more decisions on transfers? I don't want that to happen, Ake, but I think that is going to happen. I think this is where letting Ralph Rangnick go was a big mistake, because I think Eric Ten Hag is going to be assessing players over the next 2 weeks that you and I both know shouldn't be at the club. So I don't know what's wrong with my eye, it keeps going blurry. I think with Eric Ten Hag, he'd probably be looking at training over the next few days and going, I'm not so sure about Phil Jones or Eric Bailly or Twan Sebi or Wan-Bissaka or Brandon Williams, when actually he should have already had his mind made up on those players. Mark, are you aware of any good players we can bring in from the academy, says Mojo? Well, look, Garnacho's not really had his chance yet. Mabry as well. So there's two there that didn't really break in last year. And I think more than two in one season is quite a lot. I'm not convinced Charlie McNeil's ready yet. I think he might need a loan. I don't know whether he'll just stay in the under-23s again. Shora T-Ray is a player that's gone a little bit quiet, but he might come back in again. we will definitely be promoting youth under Eric Ten Hag. It's a massive part of what he's about, and we will be developing players under Eric Ten Hag, and it is something to look forward to. But if I'm absolutely honest and blunt, I'm not interested in what our first games of the season are, and I'm not interested in what young players are coming through this year, because at the moment we really, really, really need to get some transfers in. And when we've done that, I think then we can start thinking about what young players are going to come in and who we're playing in August. But our immediate issue at the moment is let's get some players in and let's sell some players. Looks like Eric Ten Hag saw none of his predecessors get their preferred targets and stopped signing anyone until he gave him his number one target. Smart man, says Humphrey. Never thought about it like that, Humphrey. Never thought about it like that. Never thought about it like that. But Mark, you missed the super chat, bro. Sorry about that, Splash. And think Garner and Donny going to play in the first pre-season games, says Salah Ahmed. It'd probably be Mctominy and Fred. Fernandez is probably next up along with Garner. Yep, the fullback. Yep. Mendes has just signed up Sheretire. Yes, he has. Mendes, who is Ronaldo's agent, has signed up Sheretire. Sheretire has gone very quiet, actually. He had a very quiet season last year, didn't he? He's sort of become the forgotten man, actually. He probably needs to go out on loan. I don't see Sheretire touching the first team this year, so I think a loan deal would be good for him. Ronaldo is one of us. He's pissed off. Also, if owners of a business you work for acting like the Glazers, you'd be ashamed and embarrassed and feel like you would want to leave that job, says Lee. I think Ronaldo is brilliant. I think he's been brilliant since he came back, and I think what he's doing now is more than anybody is doing for the club and the fans. I think he's basically telling them that he's pissed off, and he's basically saying you better start signing some players, otherwise there's going to be issues in the next 2 months. So I'm very happy about that. Just very quickly as well, I didn't even know this. Maguire got married yesterday. Whatever you think about him as a footballer, congratulations for that. But apparently he's going on holiday, he's going on honeymoon. Some people were talking about, another 2 weeks off. I don't know. I'd not read that he's having 2 weeks off, and he wasn't meant to be back until next Monday anyway, because he's an international. The internationals are not back this week; they're back next week. So I presume he'll just go off for a week and then come back. But look, if I'm absolutely honest, I wouldn't be starting Harry Maguire for Man United next season anyway. He's got a big season next year, and the more rest and recuperation he gets, the better. I think Harry Maguire, whatever you think about him, has this tendency to just keep playing and playing and playing and playing. And actually, I think he needs a break. He needs a break. He needs to get his head right, because it's a massive season for him. Whether he's going to be successful or not, I think sometimes if you can get an extra week, it's a good thing. Would Tielemans and De Jong work together, says Salah? I think Tielemans would work quite well. He's good at putting his foot in, and I think in the midfield too he'd work quite well, but we've not been in for him. Buy Kent on your career mode. We all want to see it, says S7. I tell you what, career mode's massive tomorrow. Absolutely massive stream tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, as well, that reminds me as well. I think I don't want to set unrealistic expectations, because I'm not the CEO and I'm not the director of football. But I think this week's going to be a big week. I think for the last couple of weeks we've been thinking and hoping that. I believe this week's a big week for Manchester United. Mainly because on Thursday, it's the end of the month. It's June the 30th on Thursday. That is a big day in football. June the 30th into July the 1st. It is a big day because of... it's basically the end of the football year, because that's when contracts for players end on June the 30th. Like, June the 1st is the day that Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard are free. So they'll probably announce their club. There'll be probably a lot of announcements on Friday for people announcing what clubs they're going to. So I think this week will be a big week. And it'll either be Erickson or De Jong that get announced first. I think both those deals will be finalised as well. Because remember, it's the same for Erickson, isn't it? I think Erickson's got to decide where he's going by Friday, because that's when his contract with Brentford presumably ends on the 30th. So, yes, I think it will be a big week for Manchester United. Jason says you say that every week. But Jason, I'm not CEO and I'm not director of football. So I can say what I bloody well like. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right about it. But logically, I think that this week will something happen. And of course, we have progressed this De Jong deal. Like, something has happened in the last few days with the De Jong deal that's meant that it's very, very close. We have agreed the terms on his wages and everything like that. So we've just got to wait for Barcelona to be happy to announce this deal. And I think a lot of it, I'd keep my eye on Lewandowski, because I think as soon as they've got that Lewandowski deal done, they can then announce that they're selling him. Mark, do you think there is absolutely any chance at all we'll come in with a massive bid for Declan Rice, says Jeffy? Look, you can never say never. If I'd said to you this time last year we're going to sign Ronaldo, no one would have believed it. So anything can happen. I'm not getting any indication. I think Chelsea will really try to get Declan Rice. Raheem Sterling, obviously, I knew about that a few weeks ago. I know Chelsea want Declan Rice, and I know Declan Rice wants to go to Chelsea, and that makes me believe that they might try, but West Ham seem quite stubborn. Josh is a legend. He's just gifted 20 United Stand memberships, so big shout out to Josh for doing that. Legend of the chat. Legend of the chat. Thank you very much, Josh. Please do smash a like on the video, everybody, and make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. I'm going to say that because it's free to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, but we are heading into the area now where 11 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we could be going live at any of these times over the next few weeks as United actually start to sign players. And if you want to get your notifications, then make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner, to do that. In fact, I think we've got something that should just flash up on the screen and show you what to do. Tick, subscribe, and then ring the bell. That's how you do it. It's as easy as that. Josh is a legend of the chat. He's the Ronaldo of the chat, says Christine C. He's a legend, says Mary. And Mctominy to Atletico Madrid. I'd love it to happen. I don't think it'll go. He's got more chance of going to Charlton Athletic than Atletico Madrid, let's be honest. Right, thanks everyone for watching. It's been a busy day. Hopefully it's going to be a busy week next week. And thanks everyone for watching. I'll take care. I hope you take care. Stay safe. And I'll speak to you all in a bit.